Now, money will wreak havoc with your mind. And in finance in particular, where your product is money, it can be destructive. Now, I'm not saying that money is bad. All I'm saying is that you need to make sure you control money and not let money control you. I say this as it's very easy to fall into the trap of using money as the true measure of your worth. However, all the evidence points to the contrary. Hey, it's Bilal, and this is Deep Sea, the podcast about seeing the world more deeply. I often get asked to give inspiring speeches to students or graduates at work. While it's tempting to say something about following passion, self-belief and grit, I try to keep it much more real. I think about what advice I wish someone had told my younger self. And having thought about this for many years now, I've arrived at 5 pieces of advice that would have made a big difference to my life. The first piece of advice would be get a mentor. This idea of having a mentor is not a new concept. It permeates the wisdom handed down to us from year dot. In religious stories, even the lead figures had early guides or helpers. Jesus had John the Baptist, Moses had his brother Aaron, Muhammad had his wife Khadijah, and Buddha had Alara Kalama. In our more secular times, these ideas have entered popular culture. So take movies and books. In Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, when Harry leaves the Muggle world of Privet Drive to enter the Wizarding world of Hogwarts, he has a giant Hagrid as his helper. In The Matrix, one of my favorite movies, Neo had Morpheus. And in Star Wars, not one of my favorite movies, Luke had Obi-Wan Kenobi. And what happens if you don't have a guide or you have a bad one? You end up like Draco Malfoy in Harry Potter or Anakin Skywalker, who ended up being Darth Vader. In practical life then, a mentor could be your line manager, which perhaps is ideal. It could be a senior member of your team. It could be some family friend, or it could be someone you regularly hijack as they walk to the coffee shop at work. Either way, you need someone to give you guidance. Now, in my case, I was very lucky to have an awesome manager when I started out in the world of finance. His name was Alfonso Pragai. He taught me the technical stuff, but what really stood out was his humility, which was rare for someone so senior in banking. And that gave me a template on how to be as I progressed in my career and not lose my soul to finance. The second piece of advice I'd give is learn, learn, learn. Your early years are your foundational years when you build up your knowledge base. Later on, it can get embarrassing if you need to ask the difference between a swap and a bond. So ask away. Don't be embarrassed. If anything, the supposedly more experienced workers may struggle to answer the most basic questions. Now, you may argue that you simply don't have time to read and learn. You're busy with your head stuck in Excel or Word files or Google Docs. This is simply not true. There are more than enough hours in the day to read and learn. Stop checking your smartphone and emails every 15 minutes. Read a book for an hour rather than watching something on Netflix, and give yourself time to daydream and reflect on the day. I'll talk more about productivity hacks in later podcasts, but the main message is that you have more than enough time to learn new things. The third piece of advice would be understand the false god of money. Now, money will wreak havoc with your mind. And in finance in particular, where your product is money, it can be destructive. Now, I'm not saying that money is bad. All I'm saying is that you need to make sure you control money and not let money control you. I say this as it's very easy to fall into the trap of using money as the true measure of your worth. However, all the evidence points to the contrary. Let me give you a simple example. Let's say tomorrow I tell you your pay will increase by $1 billion. Yes, $1 billion. You'll be over the moon. You're a billionaire. But I could utter a single sentence that would burst your bubble of happiness. What's that sentence? It could run something like this. Oh, by the way, I paid your colleague $1.2 billion. Immediately your mind will tell you how unfair that is, your fellow worker didn't deserve it, and so on. And so despite your newfound wealth, your mind has been trained to compare ourselves to others. And now that huge pay of yours will be swamped by evil thoughts toward your fellow workers. How about another example? Let's say your doctor tells you that you have a week to live. What would you do? Would you think about money? Of course not. Instead, you would focus on the people you love, the passions you have, and the legacy you may want to leave. A less extreme version of this is that I can guarantee you that at some point in your life, you will earn less than before, or you may even lose your job. How will you cope? You connected your entire self-worth to money, but now it's gone. And the final point on money is that our lived experience is our thoughts and feelings. These stay with us no matter where we are. Let me ask you to do this simple exercise. Close your eyes and focus on your breath for for 10 seconds. If any thoughts come up, let them pass and return to focusing on your breath. Start now. So how did that feel? Did you feel in control of your mind? Were things just randomly popping into your head? Is this podcast working or not? I need to pay a bill. I need to meet so-and-so. I'm bored. How's more money going to help your moment-by-moment experience? The fourth piece of advice I'd give is to give charity to inoculate yourself against the poison of money. When I say charity, I mean it in the broader sense. So not just giving money to charities, though this is proven to increase your happiness, but also giving advice to others, sharing insights of yours to others, or simply just being there for others at their time of need. It may be tempting to get into a zero-sum competitive mindset where you think that you don't want to give your secrets away as you'd lose your edge, but it never works like that. Helping others in all dimensions make others want to help you. In the end, you'll become the attractor for ideas and opportunities, either today or later in life. The final piece of advice would be run towards pain. I know, it doesn't sound that appealing, but bear with me on this train of thought. The first thing in running towards pain is to become aware of your pain. Many of us get numb to our pain. Often, we busy ourselves in work or play to mask pain, or we accept it as background noise in our life. And this is especially true for physical ailments like back pains or stomach pains, which we somehow demote as it's to do with our physical bodies and supposedly not connected to our minds. So, understand what your fears are, what your pains are, why you're nervous, why certain circumstances always trigger negative emotions, what forms of anger you're holding on to, and so on. And behind many of these will lay a challenge you have to face. It could be the fear of presenting, it could be working with numbers, it could be the fear of always being wrong. You can ignore that challenge and it will remain blocked and manifest itself as pain, or you can face it, embrace it, and grow as a person. So, those are the 5 pieces of advice I would have given to my younger self. Number 1, get a mentor. Number 2, learn. Number 3, understand the false god of money. Number 4, give charity to inoculate yourself against the poison of money. And number 5, run towards pain. And even though I said this was advice for my younger self, it could still equally apply to me today, to my older self. Let me know if this was helpful to you and tell me what advice you would give to your younger self. You can get more details in the show notes, which can be found on my blog, bilalhafeez.com. Please tell a friend about the podcast, leave a rating on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify, or wherever you go for your podcast. You can follow me on Twitter. My handle is @bilalhafeez123 on Facebook, or you can follow me on my blog. I'll be back soon, so tune in then.